Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's July 23rd. This will be our chart lesson for today, and we ended up with an uptrend today. We started out with a two-tiered channel. You can see it here, and we had a little break, and we moved to a new high. But actually, you might could argue that we met a break here and moved to a new high. But I really believe this was the first break. Then we moved to a new high. But really, on that move up, we had another channel that came into play, and there's even a short-term little spike in channel here. So things kind of picked up as the day went on, and really from this point till about here, I'd say till about 10:30, you could trade this both ways really, because notice how we're above the EMA, below, above, below, above, below, and that's sideways. Look how flat the EMA is there. It's not really pointed up. It's going sideways with a slight upward trajectory. But look here, now it's going straight up. And you got the two-tiered channel, and then the break, and then really this darker channel. You draw that trend off those first two swings, it comes back into play later in the day. Now, again, you got to take into account that this is mostly sideways here, so you could play this like a range as well. And really, up until about here, you really never know which one of these is the primary or the dominant pattern, because both of them are playing out here. You can see this low support's holding, this high resistance is holding. We get a little failed break, and then it holds some more before it goes higher. So you just have to kind of, you really don't know which one's going to be the dominant play. So really, you could play them both, especially when this failed above and then came back and tested and it held again. So, but let's back out. We'll talk about the trades. Won't take long today. There's not a lot of trades, but it was relatively straightforward in my opinion. You had to be a little patient because you didn't get your first trade till after 8:30 here. First long was not long thereafter, but 7 o'clock we're just kind of bouncing around up here, and you don't really get a setup to go short until you get this failed second entry long here. Notice the new high, first entry, pull back, second entry, and it really doesn't break higher, but it's close enough. It looks like one. It's got a higher low, and we're probably headed back to this low. At this point, this is looking really sideways. So I like going short there. Of course, it bounces, and if you drew this line up here, this probably, depending on how you drew it, it was really kind of hard to find this angle, the proper angle. So it's probably not going to help you here. But there's a second entry long right here with a big bullish bar. And so I kind of like that trade. There's two legs down, basically. We're not back to the lows. So you could almost argue for that one to be green. But I like it, and because it's such a bullish bar. And so I marked it. And of course, plus you've had a close or a bunch of closes outside the new low here. You can clearly see that trend line working down. And then that big bounce. And it's it's a little two bar matching low. It's a little double bottom. It's higher than these previous lows. So that's the reason you got to be a little bit concerned about it. But then it comes back. Notice what happens. You make a new swing high here. First entry, pull back, second entry. And also there's a first entry short, second entry short, and it doesn't trigger till it really breaks above this one. So that's a couple of different reasons to like that one. Plus, this really kind of confirms that trend line. You get a little bit of what looks like a close outside here, but it's not very convincing. And you could probably change the angle on this just a little bit more, and it still works. And you don't have a close outside. So it really needs to be a real convincing one. But needless to say, I like that. The only reason I didn't make this blue was because this is not it's a little bit, it's not a perfect bar, in other words. It's not a really nice bullish reversal type bar. It's got a lot of stem on the bottom, but it's got still a couple of three ticks of off the high. So it's just not a great signal bar. But if you took it, you can see it would have been a great trade. I mean, that thing really rocketed up there. And then of course you get the failed break. At this point, I'm looking at this more like a range, and then you get the break, first entry long, and this is a lower short and a lower high, and look how it um, turns down right off that line. It is right into the EMA, but because this is a range, you can't worry about that, because if you do worry so much about the EMA when you're going sideways, you'll never get a good entry because it'll always be right into the EMA. So we don't worry about it as much there, but it's still a concern. So I made it green. But when we touched and went higher and had that failed second entry long, guaranteed they trapped some longs there. I'm going to take that one. And you've got enough room to get out before this trend line right here, which would be your first concern, and otherwise it takes off and it goes all the way down, and you would have had a runner there, so you could ride that one all the way down. And where does it bounce? Right at the lows again, and it actually broke lower on this bar and turned and went out the other side. I like, once it broke lower and starts working up, I'd put my buy stop right there, and if it broke higher, I'm going to ride that back to the EMA, because that's a long way from the EMA when prices have been swinging back and forth. You generally don't get that far away, just like you really don't up here. This one, you just had too many overlapping bars, but this was a good setup here, and I like riding that. And this one, again, you get to ride it all the way back to the other side. Then you get a close outside, move to a new high, but you never really get a lower high here. You just start kind of going sideways, and then all of a sudden we drop out of there, which of course that's what you would expect if the range is going to play out to be the dominant pattern, but it ends up bouncing there. So we don't go back to the lows. So you might consider going long right there. Just treating that like a failed break out of the little congestion and riding it back. See if it bounces back. Even if it comes back just for a retest of the breakout area, you've almost got enough room to get out. Once it went to 2-bar matching high there, but you can see it still, you can see that closing right there. You really don't have this confirmed yet, so it's hard to say that closed inside, because you might have drawn it up here and you might say, hey, it closed right on the line. So I ended up adjusting mine just a little bit once this one closed. But so you might take that trade. I think you're better off to skip it. But notice there's a new low there. Then you get a first entry, and then you break out higher, and you get a failed second entry short that goes lower and turns and goes out the upper side. I like, again, having my buy stop there and going long. That's a breakout pullback, a failed second entry short. It's probably going to trap some people that try to get short right there off the range again. And off it goes. And this looks like a spike in channel, so I drew this one too. And then, of course, we do get a pullback here. Notice that there's a little 2-bar matching low there. It's a little double bottom, so you could treat that again like a failed second entry short right there. It's a nice bar, but you are going long right into the high of the day, and that's never a good idea. But it confirms that trend line on that little spiking channel. If this trend line is correct and you draw this off the high, we still got a long way to go to reach that high. So you may risk that one. But again, I think you're probably better off to skip that one. It actually pushes up, comes back, and gives you a close outside before it runs up. And guess where it turns down? Right at this trend line and the midline on the other one. First entry long, moves down, gives you a second entry long, and bounces right off that trend line. That's a perfect confirmation of it. Perfect bar. I like going long there. And that was another nice little ride up into the close there. Up into the 2 o'clock hour, really. I would have exited probably up here when it starts going, backing up. But if you'd held on, you could have ridden this all the way up, and you would have had a runner there most likely. So yeah, pretty good day. One trader sent me a message saying that he had a hard time trusting the trend lines because they always fail after they go a ways. But I don't see any real surprises here that would on these major key entry point trend lines. This is the only one on this trend line is right here. It works perfect. There's a couple here. They all tend to work, all those setups. Even if you'd have gone long up here, you could have gotten out, but I wouldn't go long that far away from the EMA after a break here. Not a good idea. This trend line works all the way down. This one tends to work on the way up. So I don't see any real trickery or failures today on these trend lines. So I'm not sure what he saw. So hopefully he'll send me a copy of his chart and we can look at it and see what he was looking at that was different than what I saw. Even way up here, you get this touch, and I may not even talked about that trade. You probably couldn't have got in that trade because it gaps and it takes off. But if you could have, that would have been another one that you could have gotten in right there. And this arrow right here was just the measured move. So that's what you were kind of looking for there before it went on higher based on the channel itself. So, but yeah, that's what I saw today. I don't see anything really outlandish there that would have tricked you or fooled you. So again, if that trader wants to send me something, let me see what he's talking about. I'll be glad to look at his chart. But anyway, again, I marked this trade. I don't think you could get in it. Really, there's a lot of sideways stuff there too, and it's right into these highs. So, but it still would have worked. I just wanted to point out that it still would have worked. You probably wouldn't have got in that trade. It's probably not a valid trade. So, but it does get enough to scalp out there. So, anyway, that's what I saw today, and it's Monday. I'm ready to get out of here, so I'm not going to beat around the bush today. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.